America has never been richer, yet millions of people feel poorer than ever. How did we build so much wealth and still lose the feeling of prosperity? From the moment we take our first breath, money silently scripts our lives. It shapes our choices, our neighborhoods, even our sense of worth. But what if most of us are playing a game we never truly understood? We talk about hard work, opportunity, and success. Yet behind the glossy surface lies an imbalance so vast, most Americans can't even picture it. The top 1% of Americans now own more than 1/3 of the nation's wealth. The top 10%? Around 70%. That leaves the remaining 90% to share what's left. Barely 30. But here's the strange part. Almost no one realizes just how unequal things have become. Studies show that when asked to imagine how wealth is spread, people believe it's far more balanced than it really is. In one Harvard study, 9 out of 10 Americans guessed that the top 20% owned about 60% of the nation's wealth. They were wrong. It's closer to 90. Numbers like that don't just show inequality, they show how far our perception has drifted from reality. So why do we keep missing the truth when it's right in front of us? Maybe because the illusion is comforting. Maybe because distraction feels easier than discomfort. While we argue over politics, identity, and culture, a quieter divide grows beneath us. The system rewards the few while convincing the many they still have a fair shot. And that illusion, that hope of equality, keeps the engine running. But think about this. If most of us underestimate inequality by that much, who benefits from our blindness? The answer isn't in another headline or speech. It's written in the fine print of our economy, and it's time we start reading it. Because once you see how deep the illusion runs, you'll realize it was never just about money. It was about control. If wealth inequality is so extreme, why doesn't it dominate every headline? Why aren't people marching in the streets about it? The answer is simpler and darker than most expect. Because distraction works better than awareness. It's easier to fight each other than to question the system that profits from our division. Every day, our attention is hijacked by outrage, hashtags, and headlines. Meanwhile, the real battle, the one over ownership and opportunity, goes mostly unseen. While the top 1% expands their fortune through stocks, real estate, and business ownership, most people struggle just to cover rising costs of rent, healthcare, and food. But wealth inequality isn't only about income. It's about ownership. Who controls assets that grow over time? Houses, companies, investments, savings. That's where real wealth lives. And for decades, that door has been closing for ordinary people. Back in the 1980s, the gap between rich and poor began to widen dramatically. CEO pay skyrocketed more than 1,000%. Worker wages barely moved. And it wasn't because CEOs suddenly became 1,000% smarter. It was because the rules changed. Slowly, quietly, and with precision. Corporations began shaping tax laws, using lobbyists to carve loopholes and advantages only the ultra-wealthy could access. Offshore accounts, special investment vehicles, and tax shelters turned the economy into a game of insiders versus everyone else. And the most effective part? They convinced the public this was just the free market. But the truth is, it's not a free market. It's a designed one. Designed to keep capital circulating within the same circles while giving the illusion of mobility to the rest. There was a moment when this design went into overdrive, and a single myth helped keep it alive for 40 years. Because if you've ever wondered why hard work doesn't pay like it used to, or why costs rise faster than paychecks, it isn't bad luck. It's by design. This isn't just economics. It's psychology. Keep people busy, hopeful, and divided, and they'll never notice who's holding the scoreboard. Once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. For decades, we've been told a comforting story, that if the rich succeed, their success will eventually lift everyone else. It sounded logical, even hopeful. But behind that promise, something else was happening. It's called trickle-down economics, one of the most persistent myths of modern capitalism. The idea was simple: cut taxes for the wealthy, let them invest more, and prosperity would trickle down through job creation and higher wages. But here's what really happened. Instead of reinvesting, the ultra-wealthy hoarded. They bought back stocks, inflated markets, and parked money in places ordinary people could never reach. The result? The gap widened. The top rose higher, and the middle slowly disappeared. Meanwhile, essential costs, housing, education, healthcare, climbed faster than paychecks ever could. The middle class, once the heartbeat of America, became the cushion absorbing every shock of a system tilted upward. And yet, when people look for someone to blame, fingers still point sideways, not upward. Immigrants, the poor, the lazy, the entitled. All while the real issue, wealth concentration, quietly slips out of the conversation. Even billionaires like Warren Buffett have admitted the imbalance is unsustainable. He once said he pays a lower tax rate than his secretary. And he wasn't joking. That wasn't a confession. It was a warning. And history tells us something chilling. When inequality reaches this level, societies fracture. The Roman Empire learned it. The French monarchy learned it. Every civilization that ignored the widening gap eventually reached a breaking point. Because when effort stops leading to progress, hope erodes and division rushes in. That's the real cost of inequality, not just in dollars, but in trust, the glue that holds a nation together. So what do we do with all of this? No single law or tax can fix it overnight, but awareness is the first step. Once you see how the system operates, you stop playing by its rules blindly. Don't be distracted by the noise. Look up, pay attention, talk about it. Because the illusion only works when we stop looking. But once you open your eyes, you can't go back to sleep. So ask yourself, now that you've seen how the game is played, would you still keep playing it the same way? Comment below. I want to hear what you think the real solution looks like.